Welcome, the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien. So great to be able to have your thoughts this morning on the passing of such a significant figure in history.
Hello, yes. You know, I met him many times. I met him in 1967 at the time of the centennial of Canada, and I met him regularly in my different functions. In 1970, Aline and I, we were the hosts of the royal family in the North for 4 days, and eventually the Queen gave me the Order of Merit. So every 18 months in the last 10 years, I was going to London, and most of the time I will have a long chat with him because he knew me since 1967. And he would practice his French with me. And he was a great gentleman and a lot of fun.
And how was his French?
Oh, you know, one day I was in 1967 when I met him, and he spoke in French with me. And I said to him, Your Royal Highness, you speak very good French for an Englishman. He said, I'm not an Englishman, and I was speaking French before you were born. He said that to me, you know, in French. So it's kind of funny, and we always had a very, very good relation. And, you know, when it was the last day that he decided 3 years ago that he was retiring from public duties, and that very day I was having lunch with him with the Order of Merit, and we chat during the whole lunch, and he was telling me that, you know, he had done it for, you know, 60-some years, and he was retiring. He said to me, I have unveiled 20,000 plaques, he said to me, in his life. And he was a great gentleman and very interested by politics. When I was sitting with him at these meetings, we will discuss American politics and so on. And because the last time I had lunch with him, and I was there with my granddaughter, and you know, we discussed the arrival or the politics of Mr. Trump in the United States and so on. So it was he was a great gentleman, and he's done his duties in an impeccable way. Of course, he was sometimes controversial. He was very candid, and sometimes he will say things that were not absolutely, you know, politically correct, if I can use that term.
I think that's what so many people loved about him. Interesting, so timely that you would have been able to speak to him about his views on Donald Trump. He was a very opinionated man. Do you want to share any of that conversation with us?
No, because he's, you know, I don't do that. It will be inappropriate, but you know, he was very candid, and he would ask me questions, and he was very interested by Canadian politics. You know, I met him at a Commonwealth meeting when I was Prime Minister and so on. And, you know, he was always very nice. And you know, very often he will sit at the official ceremonial dinners with Aline, and he was always very courtois, we say in French, and he was using the occasion whenever he met with Aline and I to practice his French, because he would say to us he does not have a lot of occasion in London.
You know, you just mentioned Madame Chrétien, and our condolences to you for your loss. And it makes me think of how the Queen is feeling. You've now experienced it yourself, the loss of a long-time partner and spouse, and what the challenges, the private challenges you've experienced that may give us some insight into how the Queen may be feeling today after such a long marriage.
Oh, it's going to be very difficult for the Queen, because, you know, you spend with your life, you know. In my case, it was 63 years of marriage plus 5 years as girlfriend and boyfriend. You know, it is a huge vacuum, and it takes a long time to absorb it. You know, It is. It's very, very difficult now. Aline has gone since 7 months. I'm getting a bit used to it, but you cannot lose a person like that without having a hell of a shock. And the Queen has been with the Prince for so long, and they've done so many things together. And they could have a lot of sense of humor when you're with them. You know, we always think that they are austere people. On the contrary, you know, they have to share jokes and memories and so on. And she will, or he will tell me some funny things that happened to them when they came to Canada. And, you know, it was, I was very privileged to have known them since 1967. And the last time I told him, I said, when I come to London, I never don't call you very often. He said, call me, I'm alone now. He said, all my friends are gone. I said, only you that I know since a long time, that I meet from occasion. So don't hesitate, come and visit with me. We'll have a nice conversation, probably a little drink too.
I just love that story. And you were with them so many times, also at Buckingham Palace for various state dinners. What was the dynamic, given the fact that, you know, the Queen was certainly, this is a picture we're looking at from 2017. We see Jean Chretien there in the back row, one of the tallest. You were actually head-to-head probably with Prince Philip, also a very tall man. But what was it like at Buckingham Palace when he had the famous 2 steps behind the Queen?
Oh, you know, it was very natural with him. You know, he followed the protocol. You know, in fact, we spent more than 4 days together. The Queen, Prince Philip, Prince Charles, Princess Anne, Aline, and I, at the Centennial of the Northwest Territories when I was the Minister of Indian and Northern Affairs. And you know, it was, we traveled for hours in the same plane. We had 2 planes because the Prince cannot travel in the same plane than the Queen, so Aline was traveling in the other, sometimes with the Prince Charles and Princess Anne in one plane, and I was with the Queen and Prince and Prince Philip in the other one. So it from Eskimo village to another one, you know, up to Fort Providence. And when we unveiled a plaque for Mackenzie, we discovered the Mackenzie River. And I was called upon to start the singing of O Canada. That's one of my stories, and I started to sing it in French, and nobody came along, you know, so everybody was laughing. And I said to the Queen, there is very few Canadians who were soloists for the royal family. But I have a terrible voice to sing, and it was, they always, you know, Prince Charles said to me, your singing of O Canada is part of royal folklore today.
I love it. What do you think the relationship between Prince Philip and Canada was? You've just told us about your relationship and your extraordinary stories having met him. But for the country, the Queen and Prince Philip have always held, whatever people think of the royal family, these two, this couple have been held in very high esteem.
But, you know, the first visit he made, she was not the Queen yet when he said, congratulated Canadian to have been able to keep our independence from the United States. You know, it was a very political statement that he made, and it's something that is true, too, and we're proud of that, and we have to maintain that, too. So, no, they were, you know, and they were very knowledgeable. Whenever you're prime minister and you meet with the Queen, she has to receive you in private, so you brief her on the state of the nation. And I was always surprised to realize how well briefed she was on different issues that we will discuss. And I had to deal with them with the patriation of the Constitution and so on. So I had to go to Buckingham Palace many times, and you know, and they were always extremely nice to me and very knowledgeable about what was going on in Canada.
You know, you've just mentioned that it's 7 months since your own loss of Madame Chretien. If you had an opportunity to speak to the Queen privately, what kind of advice would you give her on trying to get through this significant loss, her lodestar, really, in her life?
Oh, I would tell her that, and it will be the case, the family is everything in these circumstances. My kids have got fantastic support in these difficult times. In fact, I make the joke that I've become the 5th child of my daughter, and I'm the only one listening to her, I guess. But she's, it's the family will be the support that she will need in these difficult weeks and months.
How do you want people to remember Prince Philip?
A gentleman, and a guy who did his job in a very elegant way, and establishing clearly that he had his own personality. He did not disappear. Sometimes when you're in a position like that, nobody notices you, and it's very frustrating. But he had his independence, and he loves sports, and he loves nature, and he loves traveling, and he was a good human being.
In all of your communications with him, and we're just looking at footage with when he met with Barack Obama and so many world leaders, and I wonder if all those discussions you had, if you ever disagreed on anything.
Oh, I don't remember negative things, very much in my life. I'm a positive person. No, we might have disagreed on some issues. I don't know. I don't remember any of them. It's not a profound discussion in a way. It's not a debate. He will ask me for information. I will give him information, but we'll discuss what's going on in the world. We'll make comment about different social problems, the evolution of society, and so on. It was always a very interesting discussion with the person that he was very knowledgeable and very curious.
And a gentleman, as you say. Mr. Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, we thank you so much for your insight this morning as we mourn the death of Prince Philip. It's fascinating to hear of your personal stories and just the richness of that relationship.
Oh, going back to 1967. I guess you were not born.
I was born in 1964, so I remember.
Okay. So, no, a great gentleman has disappeared, and it will be terrible for the Queen, but she's an extremely courageous and strong woman, and she will get through it, as we expect.
I think your perspective after 63 years of marriage with Madame Chrétien means so much for us to hear. Again, our condolences to you for your loss this year, and thank you again.